Good evening, welcome to Rehab Talk Radio. I'm your host Kovaj. I'm hanging out with absolutely nobody. I have 0 people with me. Is no co-host, no co-producer, no nothing like that. It's just me and my man, and the guy I'm interviewing today. He pretty much doesn't need an introduction. He's what I consider one of the horsemen of the house. This guy has pretty much done it all. He's extremely well respected. He's assertive. He started out coming to the house, hit the ground running. He was the head of the workout committee last year. He's still very, very involved in it. He was the head of the kitchen, which is, God, we know, is a hellacious task. And I consider him one of the horsemen of the house, just like Geronimo, who I'm interviewed. So, without further ado, Steve, how are you today, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm good, brother. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. It's absolutely my pleasure. I know that I have wanted to interview you, but like I said, I don't, I never ask. And you came up and you're like, dude, what's up? And I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad that you want me to interview you, because I don't like to interview and infringe on anybody's privacy. So.
No, I thought it was a like need to ask basis, or I thought you had to be worthy. It was not a need to ask.
Oh my God.
I was like, man, am I not interesting enough?
No, we're worthy of sitting in Chris's little room on his ghetto computer that's half torn open right now. It is an honor to have you on here. I'm glad you agreed to do it, and
I'm glad to be here, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome.
I'm sure all this stuff's kind of weird, but it's a weird vibe, a weird thing, but it's just, it is what it is. I mean,
I'm oddly comfortable, especially being with. It's not, I know you, so it's like it's cool. It's like two friends just talking. So I'm comfortable, to be honest.
It is, but we're a house of 80 guys. We all get to know each other pretty well, and we seem to all click on some kind of level. And I've definitely clicked with you better than most. I don't know why that is. Why some people click better than most? Maybe because we've been here for the same amount of time. I could
maybe. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, there's so many personalities that you're bound to find somebody that you have more in common with, and that you just get along with easier. I don't know. We have similar stories. Like, we can relate. We have the same sense of humor. Like, I don't know. There doesn't need to be a reason. Like, we just click.
We just do, damn it. Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. It just is, damn it.
Yeah.
So I do not know your story, though.
For sure.
I know parts of your story. I know what you've told because we do have places that we share, in groups and stuff. Yeah, you've told part of your story, but I want to hear it. I want to hear the saga. Okay. So, where does our story begin? As far back as you want to go.
I was born here, but I've bounced back and forth between here and Louisiana my whole life. So it's like 13 years down in Louisiana, about 17 years up here.
Okay, that'll lead me to the question of let's hear a little bit about you. Born, raised, previous hobbies, attributes, stuff like that.
I don't know, man. I'm a total nerd. I love my Star Wars, my comic books. Growing up, those were my best friends. Were my superheroes. I didn't have very many friends, so like I found solace in comics and video games and stuff like that. Other than that, I like to think I'm a pretty laid back and easygoing guy, easy to talk to. You can definitely be shy around new people, for sure, but like once you get to know me, it's harder to shut me up.
From what I know, you have 6 mentees. You had 6 mentees at one point.
I have 5. I had 5 at one point.
Yeah, I'm hoping you downgraded at this point.
I have. Not by choice. They took some of my kids away. CPS came in and cleaned the house.
Government took my baby.
Took my baby, for sure.
So yeah, that's how well respected you are at this house. Everybody wanted you to be their mentor.
For sure.
A good majority of people.
Well, even then, like, some of the higher ups in the program, like, were like, how about you take this guy and this guy? And then I had other guys coming up to me like, hey, will you be my mentor? And I was like, bring it on. Let's go. Like, I can handle any of this. And then once they found out just how deep I was getting, because there were people with like 0 mentees, and then here I am with 5, and they're like, man, isn't this a little bit too much? And I was like, it's really not. Like, I got nothing else going on. Like, I'm pretty much just here to serve the community.
Yeah, I was skating by with like 1.
Like, I was also pretty familiar. Like, I was a familiar face around the community. There's certain guys that just are around, and like being that I I'm only working part-time right now, it was easy for me for these guys to want to have me as a mentor, because I was facilitating groups, I was running the kitchen, I was just always somewhere in the house where, like, being seen. I like to think that some of these guys saw what I had and were like, hey, I want that, show me the ropes.
They saw you as a definite role model.
Yeah.
Definite, somebody that was positive, like I said, assertive, like I said, just chest out, head up kind of guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of tooting my own horn. I'm not one of those guys with a big head, but, like, from what people have told me in the program, like, yeah, I am a guy that's looked up to, that's well respected, that, people see me and just, like, flock to me almost in a way. Like, I guess I have just one of those personalities where, like, people wanted to get to know me. They saw what I was doing, and I'm very, I don't know if I should say very good at recovery, but I'm really good at this program. Like, I'm excelling super well in this program. So, like, people see that. If you're anything like me, the way I see it is, you can basically, like, you want a pack. Like, you want a strong pack. So, when you're in a pack of wild animals and stuff like that, let's say, like, antelope or gazelle or something like that, like, the weak and the sick get picked off by predators. It's the strong that stick together, that survive. Like, you're part of my pack. Like, you're strong in your recovery, you excel in this program. So, like, I absorbed various people, mostly guys that came in at the same time that I got to know pretty well. Ultimately I discovered this pack, and it's like, all right, I'm going to keep these guys with me. I'm going to keep them strong, like, in my circle. Like, I talk about that a lot in my groups, and I talk about that a lot just in the house in general. Like, hey, if you want to be successful, like, go with the successful people. Like, don't be over here with the guys that are screwing around, that aren't taking their recovery serious.
And unfortunately, there are those type of people that are they're just going through motions. Unfortunately, we have those.
Oh, we do
from time to time.
Luckily, being that the house is so strong, like, they end up getting weeded out pretty quickly.
They do weed themselves out.
Yeah. Basically, the way I see it is, these new guys come in, and if they are honest and serious about their recovery, then they're seeking out, like, mentors. They may not use the word mentor or something like that, but they're looking for guys that are good at recovery, and that are doing the work.
When you take them under your wing.
Yeah, absolutely. And being where I am in the program, I try my best, because I feel like it's my responsibility, being one of the community leaders, like, to make sure that, like, guys are welcomed, feel at home, and, like, I want them to be comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, like, to a certain extent, you're not gonna open yourself up to recovery. You're gonna be so focused on, like, oh man, there's, like, so much pumping testosterone in the house. Like, do I need to puff up my chest? Do I need to keep my shoulders high? Do I need to put up this tough guy front? Then you're not going to be focused on what you actually need to. You're not going to be focused on being vulnerable and being open, which is something...
Number one.
Yeah, for sure. You have to do that in your recovery if you're going to start working on yourself. Like, you have to break down those, like, barriers that, we were taught as kids. Like, this is what it's like to be a man. Like, you have to... you have to provide for the family. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but there's plenty of strong women out there that provide for their family, and then there's plenty of power couples out there that do it together, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But, a lot, I don't know about you, but, like, the way I was raised was, like, you don't show emotions.
Don't cry.
Yeah. 100%. Like, you're the man of the house. Like, due to that, I mean, that leaves us susceptible to addiction. Like, because we have no other outlet, like, we're not allowed to be vulnerable, so instead we just chase it with a bottle of whiskey and, just shove it down until we die.
That'd be an interesting study to do.
Like, if you look at the way that, like, our grandfathers were, fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, like, especially ones that were, like, in World War II, Vietnam, like, dude, they went through, like, hell and back.
Oh, man.
And, like, came home and it was just like, all right, like, go to work, start having a family, go about your life. Like, and back then there was no therapy, you know what I mean? Like, there was no coping, like, with what you dealt with overseas. Again, you just swallowed that, chased it with a shot, and then you went about your business.
Oh, I was reading up on that it was different types of names that it's been given. It's been giving a gradually declining name to almost make it softer. Like when it was World War II, it was shell shock.
Shell shock, right.
And then as it became post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. And then it became, what was it after that? It was one more. I
think there was one in between it. I can't think of what it was.
Fatigue. There's a battle fatigue.
Battle fatigue.
Now
it's post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, and it's gradually gotten to be this softer thing. I like to say flat out fucked up from a horrible situation in war.
Yeah.
It's war.
Well, I mean, and this was years of these guys living this, like day to day, 4, 8, 12, however many times they re-enlisted, or just, they did the 1 4-year stint. Like, it's just every day you're just looking over your shoulder like an anvil's gonna drop on you at any moment. To live like that, and then be in that mentality. I mean, our guys fighting overseas right now are going through the same thing. I'm not trying to diminish, just saying like, oh, it was really bad back then. I was just trying to look at...
Oh, no, we're trying to say it's equally as bad. War is war.
Oh, for sure. War is war.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. But like, nowadays, like, therapy is an option. Developing coping skills and stuff like that is an option. You don't have to just swallow it, hold it down until you die anymore. Like, it's like, I understand like it being hard still to do because we still have that preconceived notion, you're a man, you gotta be tough, or maybe not even you're a man, maybe you've been in the military, so you need to be tough. Like, so it could be either sex, like you could be a man or a woman, but because you went through the military, whether it be the Marines, Army, or what have you, like you're supposed to be hardened. You're supposed to be tough. Like, you're supposed to be resilient and stuff like that. I can see how, like, even then, it's hard for people to like be like, yeah, dude, I need therapy. Like, I'm depressed. Like, I'm going through PTSD. I know, like, as a civilian, like, it took me 18 years to finally succumb and be like, look, I need help for my addiction, like, because of things that I went through in my childhood and my teenage to adulthood. For instance, like, when my mom died when I was 21, my uncles basically told me to suck it up and be strong for my siblings. Like, I was the oldest of 4, so they were like, you don't get to cry. Like, you don't get to break down. Like, you need to hold your stuff together because you have your brothers and sister to look after. Like, so toughen up, Junior. And so I did. So, like, I acted...
Sounds like a pretty harsh standard to be held to.
I mean, now looking back, absolutely. But at the time, it was like that was my responsibility. Like, I was expected to do that. And when, when guys that you respect and look up to, like, such as my uncles, like, tell you that, you're just like, yes, sir. Absolutely. Like, that's my job. Okay. Like, that's what I will do. Now looking back on it, now that I'm working on my mental health because of my addiction and seeing that, a lot of these past traumas are what led me to my addiction, like, I now realize that really sucked to happen. It really shouldn't have happened. Like, I should have been able to grieve for my mom's death. And I probably would have bounced back and been even stronger for my siblings had I been able to grieve and, like, do things in a healthy manner.
Absolutely. Grieving process is super important.
Right. I mean, to this day, I technically haven't really grieved. I've just moved on. Like, the pain is there, but I just, it's been 10 years. So, I'm just, used to the pain, I guess. Like, the pain never, like, lessens, it just gets easier to deal with, and it's been 10 years, so I'm just used to, like, this weight on my heart. But, being that I'm in recovery and I'm dealing with my mental illness and stuff like that, like, I'm opening up to the idea. I was with my case manager, and she had no idea that my mom had passed away, so I kind of brought that up and told her what I just told you, and, like, she asked me a bunch of questions. I ended up just breaking down. It led to me talking about 2 of my closest friends that I've lost in the past year due to, one way or another, drugs and alcohol. Like, dude, I broke down, and I, like, just didn't Like, I just couldn't turn the Niagara Falls off. But in a sense, like, I was cool with it. I was like, let it go. Was I bummed? Because, like, my mom, my buddies were on my mind the whole rest of the day. Yeah. But, like, the next morning I woke up and I was like, dude, I feel so much better.
Do you feel like that you had, like, maybe a bottle up kind of syndrome? Like, you bottled everything in and do you feel at all like you let anything out?
Oh, 100%. When I found out that, you know, each time that a buddy had passed away, I didn't cry. And, like, when I got the phone call from my same buddy, Brandon, when he called me both times, like, he was, like, when we lost our friend Tay, which is, like, a brother that I've had for 15 years, when he passed away, he called me and he was in tears. Like, he could barely hold it together. And I was just like, oh, man, this sucks. I was just numb. You know, granted, I was brand new to recovery, you know, was, maybe 30 days sober. So, like, I was still in that kind of shock of, like, my body was not used to numbing itself with booze.
So to pretty much break this into a section is that you had already been dealing with and dealt with death. You'd been drinking for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And then come to find out when you get into recovery, within literally your first 30 days when you're detoxing, pretty much, you find out that another close person to you had died.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I didn't cry for basically an entire year. It was like just past his anniversary of him passing that I was talking about this with my case manager and just broke down. So this is the first time I cried in 370 days.
So you're finally able to let something out.
Yeah, and it was just... It took me talking about it, like actually opening up about it for me to release, you know, open up the dam and let the flood out. You know, I guess I am still taking like that, the way I was raised, you know, is like just embedded in my mind. So maybe I'm just still not opening up and processing things as they happen. That's kind of what I'm chalking it up as, is I'm just so conditioned to do things a certain way that like now when somebody passes, I'm just like, okay, time to be tough. Suck it up, Junior.
I myself had lost somebody when I was 17, my mother. I lost my mother at 17 years old. And my godfather and my uncle and my stepdad all broke down. They didn't know how to handle it. And I felt like I was very much left holding the bag on it. And you almost feel like you have to be that responsible party. You have to look out for them. These were the guys who were supposed to be looking out for me.
Right.
And I'm sure that you could somewhat have a relation with that on... You absolutely do have a relation on that feeling of responsibility, that feeling of almost being selfish to mourn. Because I felt like that me mourning was almost my own selfish need to want them back. That's how I personally felt. That's how I got through it, was that I came up with a way in my head to justify not mourning.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sensing that I hear that from you too. Yeah. Is that you felt that there was almost a justification in not mourning because you had a responsibility to take care of your sibling.
Not just a justification in that, is like that allowed me to justify my drinking. Allowed me to justify like going off the deep end, because that's ultimately like, I used to be a problem drinker, but I at least, you know, I went to work, I took care of my bills, I was a functioning alcoholic for sure, and I was still a functioning alcoholic for years. It wasn't until years down the road with my divorce, or separating from my wife, I should say, that I really, really went off the deep end. But like once my mom passed, like I was a fifth to a handle a night drinker. I was blacking out every night. Like I either blacked out or passed out. That's how my nights ended, like every single night. And then I used to drink good whiskey until the point that like it was just getting too expensive. So I switched to cheap vodka out of a plastic bottle, because I was like, man, I don't have to break the bank now. Like,
able to budget drink.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is an alcoholic's repertoire.
Oh, for sure. But I justified it. My wife had talked to my sister about my drinking, and she was like, went off like a rocket after Mom died. Like, he was just gone. There was no saving me. I want to live this life. Like, I want to just drown myself, to the point where like there was no point in time that I was not, you know, hungover, drunk, or drinking. Like within 24 hours, like that was my cycle. There was no like time off. Like, I didn't take a break from drinking for 10 years. Like there was alcohol in my system for 10 years solid until I started getting into recovery.
Now, to break this down, you said that you were going through a fifth a day. At least a fifth a day.
At least, yeah.
Now, to break that down, I think there's got to be at least 20 shots in a fifth.
Depends on how big your shots are taken. When you become an alcoholic, man, you stop using shot glasses.
Measurement.
You start going through the bottle.
Out the window.
Like, yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, we could roughly say 20.
we'll go around, and we'll go a normie's 20.
Yeah.
Is what we can say for normie, I mean normal person that's non-alcoholic or addict. Now, to sum that up, to put that into case, a shot usually a normie shot's supposed to equal a beer. That's a 20 pack at least that you're drinking every night. Which, honestly, in high school, I took to parties as a 20 pack.
Right.
On a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're taking that straight to the dome.
Yeah, that's like, usually that was like maybe not even the beginning, but like that was like the beginning to the middle of the night. Chances are I finished that, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to get a whole nother bottle. So like I went and got a whole nother 20 pack and, would drink another 10. So it'd be like a 30 rack in.
Staggered back to the store.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, I was living down here in downtown Reno for a lot of this. So, like, I just walked out of my apartment down to the street and, like, walked a block to the liquor store. And usually they're 24 hours a day. So, like, at any point in time, I could just stumble in there. And when I was really, really bad, like, the past few years, like, I couldn't, it'd be 6 o'clock, and I couldn't tell you if it was AM or PM because the sun was down. Like, I'd look at my phone, it'd say 6 something, and I'm like, okay, I step outside and there's no sun. I can't tell if it's day or night. Like,
and to put that for somebody that's not regionally Nevadan, in Nevada, liquor stores don't close from 2 to 6 like in other states do. We're a 24-hour go-ahead drinking town. Yeah. That's one of the main things we're all about.
Oh yeah.
So I would imagine that'd be exactly how come you couldn't be able to tell day from night. Is that had to be a contributing factor, is the fact that you could just go anytime you wanted. I've been there myself.
Oh yeah, and I've been on a bender, like, blinds are down, curtain are probably over the blinds, and like, I'm just slamming back fifths on fifths on fifths.
Oh, yeah, seeing the sun and going, okay, is that sun up or sun down?
Right, no idea.
No clue.
No, I just look and it says 5 o'clock. And like that to me could mean either one.
It's
like,
drinker time.
Yeah. All I know is it's time to party.
I'm either up for the day or I'm up for the night.
Oh, for sure. Well, I'm up until I pass back out.
Yes.
Like, cause like when it got really bad and I was going on these benders, like I would just quit my job, take my last check, pay rent, hold it out for like 30 days, and like just go on a 30-day bender. And at that point, like it was just. When my eyes were open, I was drinking. And the only time I wasn't drinking was when I was passing out. And sometimes I'd violently be woken up by like my stomach telling me you gotta purge. And then all that meant to me was like, man, I just wasted all this booze. Like I need to replenish. And I tell you what, dude, I don't miss those days.
I agree, and I relate. And I understand, yes, you purged and you feel like you wasted the alcohol. And now, were you alone through all of this?
Oh yeah. Well, so for the most part, there was a stint in between a couple of recovery programs where I had met with a guy at Detox. We were supposed to supposed to be sober buddies, and that lasted like maybe an hour.
Hour?
Yeah, like we got out of Detox and we're like, all right, like I'm gonna go grab my last check. He's gonna go grab his last check from his last job. And then we're going to meet back up at this Denny's, and then we're going to get a weekly. And we both got the weekly, walked into the room, and I was like, hey man, you may not like this and feel free to say no, but like, do you want to go get a beer at the gas station? And he pulls out a fifth of gin.
Oh, dude. He's like, I beat you to it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, here we go. And that started a whole like month-long bender for us. And so it was me and him. But besides that, yeah, I was alone. Like I was... pretty much 100% by myself, just sitting, just a life of sin, sun up to sundown every single day, like to the point where I was just like like my bed was covered in bottles, like I couldn't tell which was from where, and like I couldn't tell where my full bottle was because I'm just reaching around me to like empty. Oh, here it is.
I call it Where's Waldo?
Yeah, oh for sure. I did that until basically like I got hit with an ultimatum, and it was like, look man, like my rent was due in my weekly. I ran out of cash for booze, and like the DTs are coming on hard. Like I'm starting to withdraw like a son of a gun, and it was basically just sitting there. And I went out and caught a bus because I just happened to have a bus pass, and I caught a bus, and I was gonna go down to this loan place, and I was like, that's the last place I can go. I'd probably get about $600, and then I could pay rent, and like I can live this out for like another 2 weeks, and then I'll figure out. All I need to do is figure out how to survive the next 2 weeks. Like if I can get this $600, and then I'll deal with money again in 2 weeks when I'm out of cash again. But I went to this loan place, and they're like, you owe us $600, and I like had no recollection whatsoever of owing them that money. So I was just kind of like dumbfounded, and they're like, yeah, when can you make a payment? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, like in a week when I get paid. And then I just like walked out and was just like, well, there goes that.
You're going, if you guys give me a loan, I'd give you payment today.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, and
so you're dumbfounded. You're completely awestruck because you had no idea that you'd gotten this loan, and I feel I relate to that.
Yeah, dude. At some point, I was blackout drunk and took out a loan and like just kept trucking. So like, and what's funny is like, at no point did I be like, oh yeah, here's like $600 I'm sitting on. Like I just pissed that away.
Well, at a 20-pack a night in about 4 days, you're going out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So basically, I was hitting this ultimatum, and it was like, look, man, like you're going on the streets, like, cause you have nowhere to go. You've burnt every bridge, like through your drunken nonsense. Like all your mayhem has caused you to have like no friends want anything to do with you. No family wants anything to do with you. So like you are literally on your own. So I looked at my options. I was like, look, I can either check myself into rehab, or I can live on the streets and like live for this addiction until it or someone kills me. I started looking up rehabs, and I went to my first program. You know, I grabbed all of my belongings, which included like a backpack and a laundry basket. That was everything I owned to my name, and just started trekking. And I had to walk like a mile, which took me like an hour and a half, because every like 20 feet I'd have to stop and hurl. I was going through withdrawal so bad that like, dude, I was shaking, sweating bullets, like stomach was in knots. I'm like dry heaving. But after,
it really can't get any lower than that.
No.
That's the lowest you can possibly go aside from dying.
Well, yeah, like, dude, I didn't have $1 to like buy myself a beer and like stop the withdrawals. Like I was just going through it, like 100%, just going through it. So, you know, I walked to where program's main office was, and I walked in, I sat down, and I got an application, and I could barely write my own name. Like I was shaking so bad, I could barely fill out the form. And like the lady at the reception desk looked at me and, you know, pretty much was like, dude, you look like shit.
Oh shit,
like,
so tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, like, are you going through it right now? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, have you detoxed yet? And I was like, what even is that? Like medically detox. Like I've detoxed at home, which is a living nightmare, but like, no, like I have not detoxed yet, because I was hoping you guys would help me do that.
so you have no clue about the facility?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know that you could go into a facility and like detox. Like they would help you with meds and like give you a place to stay and feed you and stuff like that. Like I had no idea about that. I had no clue. So they got me over there to the detox place. I spent, you know, like 5 days there, and then I got into a program, and I lasted 53 days. And then like during which like I went through Thanksgiving, I went through Christmas, and like everything was fine until the day after Christmas, and like the holiday blues just hit me. Like I got a new job. I just spent like almost a full paycheck on my son, my niece, and my stepdaughter. So I was like feeling great on Christmas, and then all of a sudden, day after Christmas hits, and like all of that euphoria was gone, and I just had nothing to look forward to. It was just like, cool, now I'm back to, you know, my wife was seeing another man. Like we were separated, she was seeing someone else. They had moved to Carson, so that was the first time I'd seen my son in like 3 months. And again, like I didn't know when I was gonna see him again. You know, there was a guy in the program in the house I lived in who was, you know, he would have some beers and stuff like that. So I just ended up saying screw it. Started drinking with him. Like that lasted a couple days without getting caught, and then we finally did. And we wouldn't sell each other out, so they were like, all right, well, kick rocks.
So you were busted drinking in a rehab?
Yeah.
Not the house I had, another rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, it's flat busted.
Yeah, just like breathalyzed, numbers came up, like house managers like, what's going on, guys? And we were just like, no idea. Just like,
oh, you denied it.
Oh, we denied it like till they told us to leave. And even then, it's like, had we been honest, they would have gotten us back, tried to figure out like another program or something and gotten us to detox to restart. But we denied it, so they were like, all right, well, just pack your stuff and go out the front door. So we did, and that's when I went on like a week-long bender until my money dried up, and then I went back to detox. That's when I met the fellow alcoholic who were supposed to be sober buddies, and then we were supposed to get like a weekly stay sober and get into another program, but that lasted, like I said, the whole hour.
The whole hour?
Yeah, an hour. And so we were like sober for 5 days and an hour, back to just slamming fifths of liquor. And so we did that for a month until we ran out of money, and we were both going to St. Mary's because we had spent a couple nights at the shelter, and if you've ever been to the shelter, it's a living, breathing nightmare.
I have not been to the shelter. I have heard nothing but horror stories about the shelter.
It is a horror story, for sure. Like, it's better to stay on the streets than it is to stay there.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. You can die out on the streets.
Yeah, and it's still better. You can die in the shelter. You
wow.
Get stabbed. Nope, your stuff is not safe. People are constantly stealing from each other. People are constantly messed up, getting high and drunk at the shelter. Because honestly, that's the only way to live and survive, is to be screwed up. So yeah, our money dried up. We're at the shelter a couple of nights. We're starting to go through DTs, and so we're like, all right, let's go to the ER. Like, if they don't have a bed for us because they didn't have a bed for us at the detox place. So we're like, what are we supposed to do? And so we were like, screw it, we'll go to the ER and like see if they can hook us up with like a saline pouch and like help us at least get past a little bit of the DTs. Like, hopefully if we get some fluids in us, like, we'll be a little bit better off. Well, we ended up separating because like we passed out under a tree, and at some point my buddy had woken up and just left, and like neither one of us had working phones, couldn't call each other. So I just got up and I walked like close to 6 miles to the other detox center, which is like across town. I had walked there, and I spent it was like 3 hours like going through the withdrawal super hard. So I got there, they put me up for 5 days of detox. I went to another program, but here at this other program, it was super like lax. Like, it was mainly for guys getting out of jail, but like they also had like a rehab aspect for like people in recovery. But the thing is that there was no structure, there was no programming. It was just like, get a job the next day, but for me, because I hadn't had my second vaccine shot yet, they were like, all right, we're gonna put you in quarantine for 10 days. So I couldn't leave the room, I couldn't leave the bed. Like, I got food brought to me, I could only go outside to smoke cigarettes, like, and even then, like, you had to go to this like chair in like BFE and smoke by yourself. Like, you weren't allowed to like associate with the other guys because you were on quarantine. And it was a nightmare. And I just spent 10 days fresh out of detox, like just thinking about drinking. Like, dude, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm so bored, I have nothing to do. So like after the 10th day, they were like, all right, you're on your own, like go look for a job and don't come back until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Now, during this time when you were in the lockdown for 10 days, did you have any electronics with you? Were you allowed any phone, any iPad, any computer, anything?
I did. I had a government phone, but like I had burned through the like regular data, and there was no Wi-Fi, so I was just surviving off of this like reeled back, god awful like data that barely loaded the internet.
Oh, man.
So like I couldn't play games, I couldn't stream movies or anything like that. Like, so it was pretty much useless.
It was YouTube Shorts is what it was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it was rough.
That is rough.
So yeah, so they let me go, and they're like, go find a job. Like, don't come back till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So like I leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I've got all this time to like go drink. Or well, not go drink yet. But like I had all this time to like go look for a job. So I was like, look, I'm gonna go donate plasma, get some money, I'm gonna go pay my phone bill so I can actually get some data. Like, have a working decent cell phone. Because like I had a Cricket government phone, and so I was gonna like upgrade the plan at least to like have better data. Anyway, so I go and do that, and it's like $40 to like upgrade your plan. So I've got I got $100 at the donation place, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. Just like, you know what, dude, like that place sucked. Like, I'm not going back. So like, what am I gonna do? Screw it. Let's go get a beer. So I went and got a tall can. I slammed that and like.
Oh, it's failed. Get drunk.
Yeah. And then I like drank that, and I was like, well, you really can't go back now. Like, you're at the point of no return.
And that's what it is. And I know that feeling.
Yeah. So what I do, I went and got it.
I relate.
I got a pint, and I got another tall can, and I got a soda. So I had a chaser for the pint. And then I just found myself a bridge to call under, and I spent the next week doing that, buying cheap pints and half pints.
Now, I can't help but to think about this is why when we just screw ourselves a little bit, do we think that we just screwed ourselves up 100% and there's nothing left and we just shoot for broke?
For me, like, looking back on it, I feel like I wanted to do that. Like, I knew that my time was running out. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get any more money, and I was going to have to go back to detox and find another program. Like, I knew that was happening, so I was just like, screw it, I might as well ride it out.
You wanted the last hurrah.
Yeah, pretty much. And, like, that's a horrible way of looking at it.
It is.
Because there's no such thing as a last hurrah. Like, your last hurrah is when you stop drinking.
Yeah, there is no last hurrah. It's a drunk that you wish you would have had that you couldn't have, and then you're in detox and you're done.
Yeah, because, like, if you don't stay true to your recovery and actually do the work, it's just another last hurrah, and then another last hurrah, and then legitimately your last hurrah is when you like commit to your recovery and you stay sober long term. Like, that's your legitimate, like, you don't plan a last hurrah, it just is.
That is so well said.
So with that being said, like, I spent that week under a bridge, finding sticks and branches and stuff to break up to like create fires at night. Like, there was people that would come by the bridge and like get high on meth and heroin and stuff, and that'd be my company for a while. Like, and I'm just sitting there sipping on my bottles, and I was cool with that until it like dried up. And then, of course, as usual, DT starts setting in, detox symptoms and withdrawals. So I went back to detox one last time, or actually I went to the ER because, again, the detox place didn't have a bed for me. So they were like, I called her, or no, I was there, and I was like, well, what do I do about a bed? And she's like, well, we don't have any. So if your detox symptoms get worse, then just go to the ER. And like, I had been to the ER before. I know that they just hook up a bag of saline to you and then send you on your way. Like, it's not a detox place. Like, you don't go to the ER and detox. Like, they get you to where you're like not gonna die on them or have a heart attack, and then they send you packing. So like, I knew that was gonna be a thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That, like, and they are, no offense to like, paramedics and EMTs and stuff like that, but like, they really are not fans of those with addictions. So I ended up calling.
Well, that's something I never would have thought of.
Oh,
I never would have known. It's an aspect that, now that I hear it, I understand it. They deal with it day in and day out.
Right.
And it's probably pretty frustrating compared to what they deal with. But
I mean, that's why luckily we have these like couple of detox places. One now we're down to one.
Yeah, the other one I had heard shut down last week.
Shut
I was there 10 years ago. It was open. It was
wow.
a different name, but I was there 10 years. Yeah, so it was a huge news when I heard it.
Yeah, I was baffled. I was like, man, like, because the thing is that place was like a revolving door. Like, people would, mainly people that are homeless would like, not have money, be going through withdrawals, not being able to get their fix, and so they would go and get, 3 hots and a cot for a few days, and then be sent on their way when they felt better, and then they would just go. That are like, when they got their food stamps, and they'd sell their food stamps in order to get high and stuff like that, and then after they burned through that in the first couple of weeks, they're like, oh, what do I do now? Well, I'll just go to the detox center.
Yeah, it was very much taken advantage of.
And like,
that was what I heard.
You'd have like 1 out of 20 people actually want to get help and like want to go to a program and like work on their recovery. The other 19 are like, well, I'll see you in a week. Yeah, so
it's gonna, so that if we were to put that into a statistical ratio, you got 1 in 20 that actually want it, and then from that 1 in 20, you got 10 in 100 that make it. So it's going to be like 1 in 200 by their standards.
Yeah.
If I had to put it that way, 1 in 200.
Yeah. And so they weren't making any money, and it was just the same clientele over and over again. So yeah, it kind of, it's understandable that they closed down.
It really was a valuable resource, though.
Yeah, for those that wanted to get sober, like now they have the other one, which is a way better facility. So overall, like it's an actual hospital. It's not just like people like nurses and techs. It's like there's actual doctors, psychiatrists, and counselors come around and like get you set up, like to get you into a program, that actually give you legitimate diagnoses and stuff like that of your mental health. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But to wrap up my story, as far as like getting into this program, that was technically my last hurrah. Because after that, I went to the ER and I spoke to this lady, and she worked for this company, and she was like, "Hey, like I want to help you put together a plan." And I was like, "Yeah, well, like this is like my 4th go around. Like let's give it a shot. Is there something different I can do that maybe I'll be more successful this time?" She was like, "Well, like, have you thought about maybe a 30-day inpatient, actually going to a legitimate rehab?" And I was like, "No, like, I really haven't." And she's like, "Well, how about we get you set up at this rehab, you do 30 days there, and then first we'll get you into detox. First things first, let's get you into detox for a week, and, like, get you detox, and then we'll get you into rehab for 30 days, and then we'll get you into transitional living program." So I was like, if it gets me off the street and gets me sober, like, I'm willing to try anything. So that's what I did. I went to rehab. Went to detox, went to rehab, got to this program, and I've been here 8 months, so I've got 9 months sober. So far, so good. Like, I've been crushing it. Like, not that I'm trying to get arrogant, or anything like that.
No,
like,
not at all.
I'm not thinking that I got this. Like, I've got to put in the daily work, but so far, so good.
But you know when you're doing good at something.
Yeah.
And you know that you're doing good at this.
Yeah, and at no point do I think that I got a handle on my addiction. Like, the devil's doing push-ups in the background as we speak. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm doing
You're damn
push-ups.
right.
Like, I'm doing push-ups right now as we speak too. I'm doing my daily whatever I need to, whether it be a meeting or reaching out to a family member or friend. Just keeping myself busy. Boredom's such a big trigger that, just keeping myself busy day to day is half the battle.
Now I've seen you in fitness, heavily in fitness. I've seen you the head of fitness. I've seen you retake over the kitchen just this year. You had retaken it over, and I see you down there teaching classes.
Yeah.
At least heading classes. And I do see you, and you do have a heavy commitment. And yes, I think that out of the people in this house, I would put you at least in the top 6%. You're doing very well. You're, like I said, it's the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. I mean, that was no overnight thing for sure. I had taken over the kitchen, and I had put in work. Like, I completely revamped that kitchen. After I took it over, it became a well-oiled machine.
Yes, it did. Before we were eating, I don't want to diminish anybody else's cooking, so I'm not going to say specifically. We weren't eating quite as healthy.
No.
As we otherwise would be. And you'd also started the Wednesday meetings for healthier eating, for suggestions from the house.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to get people's inputs. I wanted their feedbacks. Like, how could we make the kitchen better? And I understood that people had different diets, and it was like, well, how can I at least hear to everybody? There's 3 types of people in the house. There's people that want to eat healthy. There's people that want to eat whatever the hell they want to eat. And then there's people that say they want to eat healthy.
I'm not going to say which one I am. This is not a Kit Kat, you see. I'm not.
Right.
Yes, I'm not eating a Kit Kat whatsoever. No, so when you got here, what is it that changed? Because I see a lot of guys and they don't change their mentality. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying a huge amount. I'm just saying what I want to say is there are guys. What made it to where you wanted to change, or have you always been this way, to where you wanted to make a change and you've really dedicated into this program? I'm very curious how this step came about to you.
Well, I'm tired of, I've always wanted success. I wanted success since the first program, but maybe it's just the way the program was structured didn't work for me. Maybe I wasn't quite putting in the work that I should have been. What I've noticed about every reoccurrence that I've had is there's something to learn from it. Every reoccurrence that I've had, and I've gone back to drinking, and I'm like, all right, let's get back on the wagon, let's get sober. It's been what can I do this time that's different? Every time it's what can I do different this time? And each time I've gotten sober, I've gotten a little bit more. I had 49 days and 53 days and 59 days, and then now I've got 9 months. But each time I've put in more work and more work and more work, and I've learned. I've taken pieces of every program and all the programming that I've done, and I've always wanted to be successful, but maybe I didn't have the tools. maybe the program just didn't fit me as well. Because I'm not going to diminish any other program, because people are successful in other programs. Maybe it just wasn't the right fit for me, and maybe this one is.
You found one that worked for you. And they say that you put in what you get out what you put into it. Are you a believer of that?
Oh, 100%. Like, if you're not doing the work, when I got here, it was like, okay, I'd already spent 30 days in rehab, and so all I did from the moment I woke up till after dinner was sit in a classroom and program for 30 days. So I got out and I was like, all right, like, I'm still gung-ho about this. What's next? And of course, coming here to this program, it's not quite as structured as rehab. Like, the leash got loosened a little bit, which was nice, because I was still ready to program, but after being here for a couple of weeks, I was pretty much over sitting down in class. I felt like I'd learned just about all I could learn at that level, and I was ready to move up to the next level and learn, get some more responsibilities, get some more freedom, and then go from there.
Do you feel that the lanyard system is effective here?
In of itself is of accomplishment every time you phase up with these lanyards. When you first get here, you get your black lanyard and it means nothing. It's just like, okay, I gotta have this on me at all times.
It feels more like a leash than
right, 100%. And
they look like leashes too, in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, depends on how you wear it.
That's true.
And you can have it hanging out of your pocket, so it legitimately looks like a leash,
or around your neck like a necklace. Yeah.
But like, each time you face up, when you get your yellow lanyard and you get a little bit more freedom and responsibility, it's like, yes, I earned this.
Feels good.
Yeah, it does.
Feels good to have it.
You put in the work, so you earn this, and like, you're not just given the phase up. Like, you don't just move up the program like because you've been here X amount of time. Like, you have to put in the work. And staff sees that. If you don't do the work, then you just stay where you're at. For me, each time I phased up, it was because I was getting bored, and I was like, okay, I pretty much did everything I could do in this phase, so like, I want more challenges. And I like, even before I got here to this program, I've always been a person that enjoys challenging himself. Like, I cannot stand being bored at work. So like, I am constantly, whether it's a mental challenge or a physical challenge or a technique challenge, say like when I was in my culinary days, I was always looking to better myself. One way or another, I was never going to be the best until I got better. I'm never going to like stop getting better. Therefore, like, I mean, it's kind of redundant. It's like, you're never going to be the best. And it's like, yeah, well, with that kind of a mindset, I'm just going to keep pushing myself until I'm up there with like Gordon Ramsay, like.
And you can be there.
Well, I mean, I've given up the culinary career now. Now I'm going to start a career in this sober field. I'm doing really well at that, and that's given me something entirely new, like something that I've never done before that I can challenge myself.
Yes, and if I may pry for a second, you have and you work with people that are in recovery. It is what you do.
Well, I work in a women's shelter, and so the house that I work in is a sober house, but you don't necessarily have to be in recovery. It's just women that were on the streets, that were in the shelter, and then they moved to the house that I work in, where it's like, you have a job and you're working towards your goals. Just to give a little bit more background, I took a course, peer recovery support, and that's the field I'm trying to get into. It was difficult for me to get into a job where I was able to use my peer support skills, and it's still not exactly the field or the position that I want to be, but it's at least get my foot in the door. I'm hoping soon to get an internship in the actual peer support field, but that's also another difficult task, and it's really just life throwing me another curveball. It's another challenge that life has given me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kick your ass too, just like I've done every other challenge that's come my way so far. And that's the way I deal with problems nowadays. I don't just admit defeat and go to the bottle. I realize like that this is going to be a bump in the road, and I'm like, all right, well, put on your seatbelt, and it is what it is. So, but eventually I will get into the peer support field, and ultimately I'm not sure what position or what company I'm going to work for. I have an idea, but basically I want to help people get sober. Like, that's my new calling. And I'm also super open-minded, so I understand that recovery is not linear. It's fluid. It's ever changing.
It's definitely its own a unique fingerprint to everybody. For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to figure out your own path. And it's up to you to discover what works best for you. And that's where I come into play. It's like I'm there to help you figure out like what, find those puzzle pieces that makes that picture for you. It doesn't matter how you go about it. For me, it's like just whatever keeps you sober, damn it. Like does this work? Okay, then let's keep doing this, because when it comes to like AA and NA, some of these people are super diehard. They're like, well, this worked for me, so this is the only way that you can get sober. And it's like, not everybody can, that doesn't work for everybody.
It doesn't. And I had tried the program more than once, and it just, I didn't feel a fit in my recovery there. Not to say that it's a wrong place. It's just not one place is for everybody. For sure. Church ain't for everybody.
Sometimes 12-step programs aren't, it is what it is. But the bottom line is like finding your path. I spoke to somebody when I was in rehab, and he was a tech. He doesn't do any kind of meetings or programs or anything like that. What keeps him grounded in his recovery is going to work every day and working in a rehab. Like seeing people on their day one and just having that reminder of like, I never want to go back to that again. And that's what clued me into like kind of what I want to do, like where I was going to go career-wise. Yeah, these other programs, these 12-step programs don't work for me. So like how am I going to stay grounded in my recovery every day? Why don't I just help other people get sober? Why don't I remind myself of what it was like on day one? Why don't I show people that what it's like to be successful in your recovery? Hey, if you want what I have, follow me. Make your own path, but the destination is the same. So that's ultimately what that's what my heart is dead set on. And I'm going to do big things for sure.
I absolutely believe you're going to do big things. You have passion in what you do, and that's a super important thing. That's super important for anybody to do. In closing, I normally ask everybody where they're at, where they're going, where they feel like they're going to be in a year, and if they had one message to leave. I feel like you've answered all that, but I feel like this is our first take, by the way. We've never done this before. You seem to have it nailed. So, just to put it in simplest terms, if there was something you wish to close out with, you've already two-stepped ahead of me. So, what is it that you would like to leave with Rehab Talk Radio as kind of a homework?
I mean, if I were to say anything, it's that recovery is possible. Like, just do not give up on yourself. Like it's not about how many times you fall down. It's all about how many times you get back up and fight the good fight.
Well, all right, guys, that was Steve. This is Rehab Talk Radio. I'd like to thank you very much, man. It's such a pleasure. Pleasure to have interviewed you, and definitely look forward to hearing good things about you in the future.
Oh yeah, brother. We'll stay in touch. Don't worry.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just thank you again for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on. Well, all right, guys, this is Kovaj and Steve from Rehab Talk Radio saying less is more. Stay pure, stay poor. Take care.